because I missed this, I believe, on your stream. I mean, did you guys talk about Kelce versus Kittle?
Yes, we did. You
You
missed
did.
it.
Dang it. Okay, well, we're going to bring it up here because I have to give my answer on this, and I want to see what you had to say. So, Kittle, Kelce, who's a better tight end in your opinion? I mean,
I gotta go with Kelce. I love Kittle. Kittle's my guy.
yeah.
But the best ability is availability, number one.
Mhm.
And Kittle hasn't been healthy the last 2 seasons. And I understand, I get that he's a blocker. I get that he's good at blocking more than Kelce. But Kelce has been consistent. And, like, the Chiefs are pass first, especially with Mahomes. They don't run the ball that much. They pass the ball a lot. So Kelsey is more of a pass catcher than he is a blocker for the Chiefs. George Kittle's a blocker for the Niners because the Niners run the ball more than they pass the ball. And I understand George Kittle's better at blocking, but his health is a concern to me. And Kelce has been consistent so many years. When Gronk and Kelce, everybody had Gronk, and then Kelce was the second runner up. Kelce is now the top tight end in the league, and George Kittle is runner up. And you could still argue Kelce or Kittle, but Kelce has been healthy, and he's played well for the Chiefs. And Kittle hasn't played bad, but Kittle's injury concerns, and Kelce has just been consistent, and Kittle hasn't been because of his injury. So I gotta go with Kelce.
Okay, Jack, what about you?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because they're very different players, right? I mean, Kelsey's more of a wide receiver-ish tight end. I think we would all agree on that. And then you've got Kittle, who's more of your traditional tight end. He can block like heck. He's just as good as your offensive lineman when it comes to run blocking. But when he gets the ball in his hands, he's like a wide receiver because he's just unbelievable to bring him down. When he gets the ball in his hands, he reminds me of Mark Bavaro. I don't know if you remember Mark Bavaro, Jesse, from the Giants days. But that's kind of the guy he reminds me of because he's just a big guy who, once he gets the ball in his hands, is just super tough to bring down. So I'm going to be a homer here. I'm going to say George Kittle is the better of the two when it comes to tight end across the board in the way that position really is and the way that the 49ers utilize him as well. Okay.
So I'm going to go with Kittle as well. And a couple reasons for that. One, Kelce's had the benefit of having the best quarterback in the NFL for the last few years. Okay. One of the reasons that Kittle got injured and continued to be injured because he would play through injuries is because his quarterback hung him out to dry multiple times and almost lost his leg multiple times. Right. And both times happened to be against Arizona, by the way, but he hasn't had the same situation. If we flip-flop these situations, I think Kittle is doing all the things that Kelce's doing, but I don't think that Kelce can do the things that Kittle's doing. You think about, we're talking about blocking, okay, and we're comparing him to other tight ends. He's a better blocker in some scenarios than the right tackle in McGlinchey. Have we ever seen McGlinchey be left on an island with Cameron Jordan breathing down his neck? No, they're usually going to help him out. They left Kittle multiple times against the Saints to take Cam Jordan one-on-one. That was their whole game plan, was to let him do just that in 2019, okay? So no tight end in the league would be asked to do those things. And Kittle not only did it, but he did it to almost perfection. He did the same thing against Minnesota. He was left out on an island against both their pass rushers, and he held up just fine. So his his blocking is so far above not only Kelce, but basically almost every tight end in the league. And then you add in that at worst, he's the third best receiving tight end, probably the second best when he's healthy. You add those two things together. Again, I think he can do everything Kelce's doing in that offense. I know that Kelce can't do all the things that Kittle's doing in this offense. So for that reason, I have to go with Kittle. It might be a little homer pick, but I love my man. Kittle's a savage. You, what's up?
Can I make a counter argument to that?
For sure.
Because, I get your point that if you put Kittle on the Chiefs, yeah, he would probably kill it. But Kelce is more of a pass catcher on the Chiefs than he is a blocker, right? The Niners use Kittle as a blocker. So you could say, yeah, Kittle might be an all-around better tight end. But if you're talking about a pure tight end, who's a better pass catcher, you got to put Kelce above Kittle. And Kittle hasn't been healthy, right? If Kittle has been healthy, then I would take Kittle. But Kittle hasn't been healthy. And Kelce has been consistent for so many years. And now that Gronk is retired, Gronk came back, but since Gronk is retired, he didn't play. Gronk didn't play amazing like he was this year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Kelce is now like the top tight end, and then Kittle came along, and you could argue Kittle and Kelce, but the Chiefs don't use Kelce as a blocker to block Cam Jordan or to block these people. Kelce is more as a weapon with Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs. You can't. You could say Kittle's a better blocker, but you can't make that same argument because the Chiefs don't use Kelce as a blocker. If the Chiefs use Kelce as a blocker, then we could see how good Kelce is as a blocker. But Kelce's not a blocker for the Chiefs. Kelce is a pure wide receiver for the Chiefs and tight end's body.
Do you?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I was going to ask you though. I mean, do you think if Kittle was with the Chiefs that his numbers would be inflated more than what they are versus having Jimmy? Easily. Okay. All right. I just want to see where your head's at with it. I want to see how much better you thought Kelce was. So it doesn't sound like you think he's much better. Really, the health is kind of what's holding him back. And I agree. I mean, best abilities availability. So you're not necessarily off there. Again, it might be a homer pick for me, but I'm going to go with Kittle. But you do think it's close. Like you don't think that Waller? Do you think Waller's better than Kittle?
Waller is third best tight end in the league. Waller is not better than Kittle and Kelce.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure we weren't far apart. Okay.
No.
I like where Amin's going on that though, because it does make sense. I mean, Kittle is not the same receiver. Kittle doesn't have the hands of Kelce, even, quite frankly. If we're just talking about them as receivers, then Kelce's the guy. If you look, and he's right. They don't ask him to do the same things that Kittle's asked to do. But I think if Kittle was on the Chiefs, he'd still put up good numbers. But I don't think they'd be as good as Kelce. I really don't. I mean, he's a really good player, but I don't think he has the hands quite of Kelce.
He doesn't, but he also leads the league in yak. So once he gets the ball, he's going to make more of it than what Kelce does. And I think that for me is the biggest difference is you're right. If we're talking about pure route running, Kelce's definitely better. If you're talking about pure hands, sure, Kelce's better. But once the ball is in their hands, and it's not like he's dropping it enough to make a huge difference. Once the ball is in his hands, dude, you're not bringing him down. He's leading the league in yak, not just tight ends. He's leading the league in yak. Like, that's huge. So, it's splitting hairs. You're talking about two all-time greats here. So, I get it.